Hey, welcome back to Freelance Answers. Today I've got another question from Andrew Walters. And Andrew asks, you talk about the importance of content generation. What are your thoughts on using a writing service to generate blog posts? I'm torn. I'm torn on how to answer this because I usually, whenever anyone asks me about should I outsource my writing or should I outsource my sales or should I delegate out something that's kind of integral to my business, I'm always kind of, my first thing that I want to understand is why are they asking me this? And it usually boils down to one of two reasons. The first reason is, and the ideal reason is that they are so busy, they've grown this company to be so large that they really just don't have the bandwidth to do it themselves anymore. They're so, their day-to-day concern is building their business, selling to clients, proofing over proposals that are going out or whatever it might be. And that is, in my mind, the legitimate way to outsource. When you've done something yourself for so long that it doesn't, you're kind of at a point where you're not directly providing unique value to that any longer, where, it's something that somebody else could do. Now that you've kind of charted, the waters already, you understand how it needs to be done, what needs to get done, and how to do it. And now you can train somebody else to do it for you. But all too often, the reason that people ask a question like what Andrew's asking is because they don't want to do it themselves, or they don't know how to do it themselves yet, or they're not as comfortable doing it yet. The number one thing that I get asked a lot is, how can I hire a salesperson? And this is from somebody who isn't yet at the point where they actually are so overwhelmed with leads, with new work, and so on, that they actually need a salesperson. It's often that they're, somebody's not comfortable selling, so they want to get somebody else to sell in their stead. So again, I don't know which side of the coin Andrew's on, but what I would say is, regardless of if you plan on delegating out or outsourcing your content generation or your marketing material generation, it's something that you should do first. You should. What I usually will do, and actually a good example is actually with this podcast and this video show. These first few episodes, I'm doing all the show notes. I'm uploading it to YouTube. I'm uploading it to iTunes and so on. But over time, what I'm doing is I'm kind of writing down into a Google Doc exactly what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and actually how it's done. And then, in a few weeks, I'm going to have somebody else kind of pick up the reins and do a lot of that for me. But you'll notice that I'm doing it first. I want to make sure that it's done the way that I expect it to be done first before I just hand it over. And the same should be true of whether you're hiring a salesperson or whether you're hiring a content marketer or whatever else. You should be very familiar and comfortable with doing it yourself first before you hand it off. Now, I do want to mention one thing, and that is for some things that's not practical or it's not pragmatic. And a good example of that would be if you're a programmer. I'm not advocating that you should learn how to design first, or if you're a to go back to this video show. If I'm a developer, I can write pretty well and things like that, but I'm not a video editor. I'm not an audio engineer. So I'm not even going to attempt to do that myself first. So, but with content marketing and with sales and things related to the selling of your brand, it's so much more than just handing it off to somebody who is a salesperson or handing it off to a writer, let's say. You want to make sure that what you're doing when you're selling, when you're creating this content and so on, it needs to reflect who you are in your business. It needs to reflect exactly, your ethos, the business you're building and the direction you want to move in. And if you're just hiring somebody off the street and saying, hey, you're a writer, I need words written, you're probably not going to get very far. So I guess what I would advocate would be, first, do it yourself. Anything marketing or sales related, try to do it yourself as best as you can. There are some things you're going to run into that maybe you just can't do. Maybe you're not technical enough. Maybe you're not creative enough. By creative, I mean like design-wise enough. I think we're all creatives. But anyway, try to do as much as you can first. And create processes, write down exactly what you're doing. Even if you don't think you'll ever delegate it out to anyone, open up a document, open up a Google Doc, and write down exactly what you're doing. Make this your standard operating procedure, so when you do hire somebody, you can then just hand it off to them and everything should go well. So Andrew, hopefully that helps. And if you have any questions that you want to submit to me, go over to doubleyourfreelancing.com/answers and drop me a line and I'll answer your question on the show.